Good evening, friends. Thanks, Andy. And thank you for joining us for the second session of our Membership Action Plan series, Connect with Prospects. Before we start, a couple of housekeeping items. Firstly, we want to make sure we capture who's with us this evening. So you'll be eligible for these wonderful MAP, Club and District Awards. So please take a moment right now to type the following in the chat box. Okay. An asterisk followed by your first, then last name, then a dash, followed by your club name. There should be an example in the chat box right now, so go there, put your information in using that same format, please. Thanks for doing that. Please also note, as Andy mentioned, that any questions you have during the webinar, submit them through the Q&A feature, not the chat feature, please. That will help us monitor and capture them and ensure we give you an answer, and hopefully the one you're looking for. So let's start by recapping. The goal of the Membership Action Plan team is to give you the tools and resources, the map, if you like, to build consistent, moderate growth in your clubs. Membership growth is, of course, Rotary International's top internal priority, and we see MAP as an arm of Rotary's action plan to increase our impact, enhance participant engagement, and expand our reach, which in turn helps us to fulfill Rotary International vision, where together we see a world where people can unite, take action, and create lasting change across the globe in our communities and in ourselves. Quite simply, if we grow more, we can do more. We can have more vibrant, exciting meetings and do projects which deliver greater impact. In short, creating club environments where our members can not just survive, but thrive. However, data shows that whilst many of our clubs are doing an amazing job in service projects, that our biggest challenge remains membership. And while some clubs are succeeding in growing, many clubs need a plan they can easily follow. That's immediately actionable and backed by real-time data. The Membership Action Plan, or MAP, offers a multi-year, data-driven, step-by-step guide to help our clubs achieve consistent, moderate membership growth. So a quick review of session 1, where we shared 3 different ways of creating a membership pipeline. Firstly, we asked, who do you know? And suggested a club activity with a 3x5-inch card, where we ask our members to write on the card who they know that would add value to their club. Secondly, we suggested you identify gaps in your membership. Illuminate professions and leaders who aren't in your club. Find out who in the club knows them or who would make an introduction. And lastly, we stress the importance of the personal ask, where the president has a one-on-one chat with members, asking them to bring one solid prospect to a Discover Rotary meeting, and suggested scripts were provided for that. So building on session 1, session 2 will go through how to connect with these prospects. Now that we've identified them, and then map their path into Rotary. And today we'll hear about a tried and tested best practice to help us do just that. But before we get into the detail, let me now introduce George Robertson Burnett, who will give us a summary of the Zones Award program I mentioned before that you, your clubs, and your districts will be eligible for by participating in the MAP program. Thanks, George, over to you.
Thanks very much, Jeremy. Good evening all from beautiful Lakeland, Florida, although it's not so beautiful at the moment. So if you lose me, it's because there's a thunderstorm going through at the moment. But I'm delighted to get this chance to remind you all about the rewards program associated with MAP, the Membership Action Plan. Firstly, I want to remind you regarding the qualifications for club awards. The first part of participation is completion of the club worksheet. Every club has a worksheet, and it can be found on the Zones 33-34 website. So just go to the resources library, put attrition in the search box, then select your zone and district, and finally scroll through to find your club. Bingo, you have your worksheet for completion. And that is only necessary on an annual task. The next element of participation is attending these MAP webinars. That is why it is important to be easily identifiable, as Jeremy mentioned at the beginning there. The number of these webinars that someone from the club attends dictates the level of possible award. There will be a total of 11 webinars this year. Club attendance at 6 could earn a bronze award, 8 for the possibility of silver, and 10 makes your club eligible for a gold award. The last element for the club award is the achievement part, growth. Yes, unsurprisingly, the club has to show growth for the 2022-23 year. And now I'd like to identify the criteria for district awards, and there are only 2 criteria. Firstly, there will be a league table regarding club attendance at these webinars. The higher percentage of clubs in a district attending the webinars, the further up the league table your district will be. The top third in the league table will be eligible for District Gold Award. The middle third will be eligible for silver, and the lower third will be eligible for bronze. And why do I say eligible? Because obviously the second part of the award criteria is, yes, you guessed it, the district must also have annual growth. As you can see, we rate attendance at these webinars as very important. And that is because the recommendations and actions described in these webinars will build every month into a path to produce consistent, moderate growth for every club in our zones. So now, one of the major elements of today's webinar, connecting to prospects, that's the subject of today's webinar. And Discover Rotary is an important element of this. It's a pre-joining Rotary information meeting. While thinking about how our clubs connect with potential members, I was reminded how I was attracted to Rotary. For me, it was a call from my bank manager who asked me if I wanted to go to lunch. And as you all know, that is just simple code for, do you want to join Rotary? So did I feel duped by that approach? Well, no, because I wanted to give the best fellowship organization in my area a chance. However, I did feel a little bit like the village idiot for a while, because it took me a long time to understand what Rotary was all about. How much better would it have been if my club had offered a Discover Rotary opportunity to encourage me to join? I would have been a lot more knowledgeable and therefore more comfortable with my decision to join far quicker than I was. I did get a fireside chat eventually, of course. Now, before we get into the details, I thought it would be beneficial to hear from some Rotarians who did get the benefit of Discover Rotary. And so we have prepared a short video with their comments on what that offering meant to them. Roll video. Thank you.
You know, I was really glad that they had a program like Discover Rotary, because it gave me an overview of the club and its objectives and its connection to the larger mission of Rotary. But it also gave me a really good understanding of the history of our particular club. And for me, that was really exciting to see not only where we've been, but where we hope to go in our club.
You can only learn so much, I think, from the people that you already know that are in Rotary. I mean, they can talk to you about various things that they've been involved in, but Discover Rotary was very helpful to me, just basically because it gave me a broader perspective of all of the various activities, service projects, and missions that Rotary has.
One of the things you realize when you go to the luncheons, you do get to kind of meet people and you get to see the program, but the lunches aren't really structured to be super informative about what Rotary is.
So the Discover Rotary meeting is really the reason that I'm a Rotarian today. I had visited a lunch meeting and, was interested in joining, but by going to the meeting and learning about all the wonderful things that Rotary does in the world, the service above self aspect, the, amazing work they've done eradicating polio, And also there, I learned that it was, financially something that I was going to be able to work out of my budget. So I think if it hadn't been for Discover Rotary, I might not be a Rotarian today.
Now, going to the lunches is great, but like I was saying, when you're new and you don't really know what's going on and really a whole lot about Rotary, the Discover Rotary meetings gives you an opportunity to kind of get the overview of what Rotary is, what it's been, the history of it. And for me, that was kind of important.
I would say Discover Rotary was highly influential to me in making my decision to join Rotary. And at the same time, it was really providing the background and that I needed to hear as far as service and history and dedication to community. And that was really the final straw for me. That's all I needed to hear.
I have to say that going through the Discover Rotary program was instrumental in making that final decision of where I would spend my time and resources.
I think if it hadn't been for Discover Rotary, I might not be a Rotarian today.
Wow, I hope those testimonials made it very interesting as to what we're going to hear tonight. My sincere thanks to those Rotarians who freely gave up their time to chat to me about their experiences learning about Rotary. I hope you agree that their comments are very encouraging with regard to the Discover Rotary program. And now I'm delighted to pass you over to my good friend and fellow ICA from Zone 33, Chris Jones. Over to you, Chris.
George, thanks so much for a great presentation on all of that. So we're really excited to offer these awards and really excited to hear from those that have been through Discover Rotary. When connecting with prospects, inviting them to a Rotary meeting as a first option can reduce the chances of them becoming a member. Unless they have some background about Rotary on how your meetings go, the meetings can leave prospects wondering. Our rituals of bells, songs, prayers, pledges, and reciting can be a little intimidating. Hosting a membership event such as Discover Rotary Information Hour allows our prospects to have a better understanding of what Rotary is, how meetings are run, and what your club does in the community. Discover Rotary has a proven return on investment. Think about the 10-3-1 rule we have discussed in the previous session. 10 suspects to get 3 prospects to end up with 1 member. In reality, our return on investment when doing Discover Rotary sessions exceeds the 10-3-1 rule pretty significantly. Data proves that clubs who implement a Discover Rotary type event have the greatest return on membership growth. To tell us more about the successes of Discover Rotary, let me welcome Sandy Olson, membership coach from District 7770. Sandy has a lot of experience and success using Discover Rotary as one of the most effective attraction strategies. Sandy, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm going to tell you this evening about a program to introduce Rotary to potential members. My club wasn't having success that we wanted to have in attracting new members. We were doing the standard things. We were inviting prospective members to club meetings, socials, projects, but they left those events not knowing much more about Rotary than when they arrived. And many voted with their feet, deciding that Rotary was just not for them. So it was time for us to try something new. We developed a presentation about Rotary that offers a much better understanding of who we are and what we do. We do it in a short in-person format right before our lunchtime club meeting. Prospects were already planning to attend anyway, so they just came a little early. We call it Discover Rotary, and it worked. Our club has grown from 33 to 50 members. The Columbia East Club has gone from 37 to 62 members, and others have had similar success. It's not intended to be onboarding programming. The MAP team will address that in later webinars. Discover Rotary is an introduction and just one example of a successful best practice to turn potential members into club members. Discover Rotary is a win-win We get a better understanding of what a prospect is looking for, and they get a better sense of what they're committing to and the doors of opportunity that will open wide for them. So here's how it works at Forest Acres in Columbia, South Carolina. Following the recipe for success, we invite no more than 3 to 5 guests and 2 club members. A small, informal event fosters much better interaction and plenty of opportunity to ask questions. It's an information hour to introduce Rotary, so we focus on the prospective member to help them feel comfortable and to show that we care. Introductions must be intentional and strategic. Again, the recipe for success is the key way to go. Introductions of no more than 30 seconds, and take the time to explain exactly how these introductions should go. Members give their name, vocation, what attracted them to Rotary, and why they stayed in Rotary. Guests give their name, vocation, and what prompted their interest in Rotary. This is a key success factor. We prompt members for their testimonials. We prompt prospects to tell us what their interest is. The information that you glean from prospects can now guide the rest of the program. We answer the question, what is Rotary? And we keep it simple. We are an international membership organization that does service. Membership is what we do. Membership is who we are. Membership is what we do. Sure. We are guided by a strong vision. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. You know, that's a great one-line summary of who we are and what we do. Here we see that members are people of action, doing what we do to impact others. It's not necessary to go into a lot of detail. The idea here is to communicate the passion that we have for Rotary. We tell them that we are the largest, most financially sound membership organization whose logo is recognized in more countries around the world than any other. That is why every minute of every day, we feed, we house, we vaccinate, educate, advocate, and provide comfort and care. This is Rotary. We take a brief look back at how Rotary got started. Our founder, Paul Harris, gathered 3 friends together in 1905 for fellowship and friendship, 2 of the core values that are still an important part of who we are today. We explained the 4-way test is 4 questions Rotary members use to guide our personal and professional lives. That way, when potential members attend a club meeting, they will better understand what's going on when club members stand up at the end of the meeting to say the 4-way test together. This helps them appreciate the high ethical standards of the organization that they are thinking about joining. And while the world is a very different place today than it was in 1905, what hasn't changed are Rotary's core values of fellowship, integrity, diversity, service, and leadership. We reinforce this by emphasizing the object of Rotary. Now, how many of our members globally can actually say that they were introduced to the object of Rotary before joining, or even after they became a member? Yet it's the very essence of who we are. These 4 statements explain why service is at the heart of what we do. The object of Rotary comes to life through 5 avenues of service, and they're like the branches of a deeply rooted membership organization. And it is through these branches or avenues of service, and whether it be club, community, vocational, international, or youth, this is how we make a difference in people's lives. Our goal is to communicate that we are a membership organization with the highest standards, where we use our vocation, our time, our talent, and a little of our treasure to serve our communities. We talk about 7 areas where we focus our service to build international relationships and create a better world. We accomplish this through our own charitable arm, the highly rated Rotary Foundation, and how for over 100 years it has promoted world understanding and peace. It has worked to prevent disease, provide clean water, support education, grow local economies, and save mothers and children. And of course, we talk about Polio Plus and how since 1985, Rotary has participated in a program that has achieved a 99.9% reduction in the number of polio cases worldwide. While many potential members are aware of the work that we do in our local communities, very few know about the amazing impact that we have on a global scale. You know, this can be crucial when a prospective member is making a decision about growing Rotary. Here we talk about our youth programs and why it is important to develop our next generation of Rotary leaders. There are opportunities to develop leadership skills and learn the value of service. And the fact that Rotaract has recently been elevated to full membership shows that we are a progressive organization focused on the future. At this point, we provide a little information about our district and our Forest Acres Club. We are proud to acknowledge that Forest Acres is considered one of the most vibrant clubs in District 7770. And while we work hard on our projects, we also know how to have fun, from the blues brothers and sisters to a chorus line. This may be the most important slide that we look at because it helps prospective members begin to consider why they should join Rotary and what's in it for them. Apart from making lifelong friends and having fun along the way, they can also be part of something larger than themselves. Opportunity awaits them in the words of our vision statement, where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. We explain there is a process for joining Forest Acres Rotary. Membership is by invitation from a club member. Club dues cover meal costs, an optional donation to the Rotary Foundation, and a subscription to the Rotary magazine. We make it very clear that what the time and financial commitment is in being a member of Rotary. But most importantly, we want them to become quickly involved in club activities. Eventually, consider a leadership position in the club. Yes, we're already talking to them about future leadership. An exciting future awaits them. We bring our Discover Rotary to a close by thanking all for attending. Prospective members have plenty of time to think about Rotary and if it's right for them. There's no pressure, there's no rush to join. When they are ready, their sponsor will give them a membership proposal form to complete and return. As they consider Rotary, we ask potential members to think about 2 key questions. What can you bring to Rotary? And what do you think Rotary can bring to you? This helps them realize that Rotary is a 2-way street. They get what they put into it, and we recognize that they deserve a return on their investment. We leave them with the words of our founder, Paul Harris, who said it best when describing what it takes to be a member of Rotary. He said this: if you have the love of your fellow men, my friend, in your heart, you are a potential Rotarian. So in effect, We let Paul Harris close the sale for us. Well, this is a quick walkthrough of how we do our Discover Rotary. You can adapt the slides to your own club, but what's important is this gives you an intentional strategy for growing membership in your club. I've seen it work too many times. When you follow the success recipe, you'll be amazed at the results. So to talk about what happens next, let's pass it back over to Chris Jones. Chris?
Sandy, thank you so much for an effective overview of how your club performs Discover Rotary. We can definitely see why your club and the clubs in District 7770 have seen such ongoing growth, especially in the last Rotary year. The next steps, of course, are important components, though. As in any prospect and selling process, you can't just do a presentation and expect to close the sale without follow-up. So we do all of these next steps listed here, and I can tell you that our Discover Rotary process, when followed, has delivered amazing results. We have an easy to follow recipe that I'll describe here in a moment. I cannot emphasize enough that the follow-up process is a key success factor. The fortune is in the follow-up. Now, here's what you really want to know. Generally, we have better than a 60% success rate in converting prospects into members when they attend a Discover Rotary session, whereas our success rate previously with an invitation to a club meeting type approach was closer to half of that. And in fact, I'm happy to say that by adopting this process, the clubs in District 7770 have, along with a number of other intentional membership growth strategies, led them to be one of the few districts that grew in the USA last year. All right, so what we'd like to do now is to share our recipe for success with you. Of course, you'll need to adapt it to your own culture and club and region to suit your particular club's needs. But we've made that easy by creating a template for you. So all you're going to need to do is to go to rizones3334.org, and then you're going to click on search. And we'll let the slides get caught up here. So if in the search area, you're going to type in Discover. And when you do that, you'll come up with all of the items that are in our website that have all of the information that you need to run a Discover Rotary session. So you'll see here, for example, there are Rotary sample emails. Also, you're going to find video examples, a slide set deck. I've seen a couple of you asking questions about, will the slides be available? So yes, you can get them right off of this website. And of course, the script. And the script will be a much more involved script than what Sandy went through this evening in the brief demonstration that we did here. You'll also see a video example so that you'll get a chance to see this again, and a Rotary slide set template, as I mentioned before, and a sample from District 7360 of some collateral that's used to help promote this Rotary Discovery Hour. And of course, a prospective Rotarian phone invitation script and a recipe for a successful membership event. One key thing about the recipe is that you need to follow the recipe in its entirety. Just like baking a cake, if you leave something out, it won't taste quite right. And the same thing will happen to Discover Rotary. It won't quite go the way that you want it to go. So we want to just kind of recap a couple of things here, but I know that you've got this. So Rotary Discovery Hour is a great tool to educate prospects about Rotary and convert them into members. So next month's topic is going to be on meaningful onboarding, and that's on October 10th at 6 p.m. In that session, we will discuss aligning new member goals with club needs, are new members being mentored, how are the new members progressing toward their goals. But the last thing I'd like to leave you with is let's start planning this week your Rotary Discover session, and we'll bring you the next bite-sized step next month. So let's take some questions now, and Audley, our Regional Membership Officer, is going to moderate that. Audley?
Hi, thank you very much, Chris and Sandy. The session is just fantastic. And as a reminder to our audience, this is an information session. So the first question is for you, Chris, so hang in there. So Chris, the first question is for you. Based on your experience, do you think it is best to invite a prospective Rotarian to a Discover Rotary session first before an actual meeting?
Thanks, Audley, for the question. So again, in our experience, what we have found is that by inviting a person to a Rotary Discover session or Discover Rotary session really does give the prospect more information about Rotary as an organization. And if you think about it, if you invite a prospect to your club meeting, what have they learned about Rotary by coming to the club meeting? So you absolutely do want to bring people to a Discover Rotary before you bring them to a club meeting.
I've heard a saying before that you invite a Rotarian for a date instead of asking them to get married. So the idea of this info session first is just really very, very helpful. The next question is for Sandy. So you have done several sessions, Sandy, for your different clubs and for your district. Do you suggest inviting existing Rotarians to these information sessions as well?
I absolutely do. Thank you, Audley. It's a really good idea. First of all, when a club member who is a seasoned club member comes, they can give a perspective that is just amazing. But also when a newer club member comes and attends Discover Rotary, it also provides a perspective that the potential club member can really identify with. But we've learned that even seasoned club members can learn a lot about Rotary by attending a Discover Rotary event. In fact, in our club, we've even started doing Discover Rotary for the whole club at least once a year as a refresher or a way to learn new things.
Wow, that's fantastic. Do you see this work also if you have a Rotarian that's possibly transferring from another district or area? Do you think it's wise to invite them along to these information sessions beforehand?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because coming from another club or another district, we're not really sure what their background or understanding is of Rotary in general. So we want to reinforce that. But then they're also new to the club. So it gives them opportunity to learn things specifically about our club. So absolutely.
Because the slide deck that is shared, it's customizable. So once it's tweaked to a particular club, a transferring Rotarian would be able to see what this particular club him or her is transferring to, what those particular projects and socials may look like. I have another question for Chris. So Chris, this question is for you. So again, this is an info session, ideally not in a regular club meeting. When is best to have a session like this? If you're a breakfast club or a lunch club or evening club, what have you seen work? And what do you think the best practice is for when to actually host one?
Yeah, so I've seen many examples of how this works. In most cases, lunchtime clubs typically run this before their lunchtime meeting. Breakfast clubs, I've seen them run this on a different day and a different time. And in a couple of clubs, I've also seen them offer a morning session and an evening session so that they can capture all people. So it really depends on what works best for your particular club and your particular market. I encourage you to try different ways of doing the Discover Rotary. But for the lunchtime clubs, again, right before the lunch meeting works best.
Oh, excellent. And just a quick follow-up as well. Sandy, same question. What has been your experience in your own club as well? Going just a little bit more specific. You're a lunch club, you're a breakfast club. Just remind us, your particular club.
We are a lunch club. So we do our Discover Rotary right before the meal and the club meeting, and it works well. We found that to be successful for us. But you know something else that we do? If we need to, if we have a prospective member who is really interested, sometimes we will do a one-on-one Discover Rotary with that individual. because if they're ready to go, there's no sense in holding them back. So, so we get really flexible and creative in how we do Discover Rotary.
That sounds fantastic, because what's that saying to me as well is you may have champions in the club that can host these, and possibly a past president who may have been a past president a year or two. This is an excellent way to engage your existing Rotarians as well, to have them do these information sessions as well. That's fantastic. Keep it on you, Sandy. I'm gonna bug Chris in a little bit, but based on what we've seen so far, and this particular information session or Discovery Rotary, how long would a session like this last? If you're doing it before at a lunch meeting, and Chris, I'll ask you for your guidance and thoughts on that as well. If it's a lunch meeting or some other time for a breakfast club or an evening club, on average, how long should we host one for, depending on the amount of slides that we have? What's a good time frame that we're not losing audiences once they're coming in, because these folks will be brand new to Rotary? What's a sweet spot? What's the best time frame that you've seen?
Who do you want to answer first?
Oh, Sandy, I'll get you, sorry. Go ahead, Sandy.
Thank you, Audley. What we've learned is anywhere from about 30 to 45 minutes, it works best. Also, remember, this is right before lunch, so people get hungry. But we do try to keep it within that 30 to 45.
So that's a very good question. And Chris, I'm coming to you, so please keep an ear out. So if it's a lunch meeting and you're doing this Discovery or before, there would be no cost for the club at that point. You're not really providing a meal. You're just providing this information session to then invite them, if they have time, to come to a meeting after. That's correct? Sandy, sorry, that's correct, babe?
Yes. That's the wonderful thing about Discover Rotary and having it in conjunction at the facility where we have our club meeting. It doesn't cost us anything. And so primarily the cost is going to be if you bring refreshments, but refreshments, this is a business meeting now. So, but refreshments can be very light, and it just works. It works really well.
Yeah, I like that idea. And same question to you, Chris, based on your experience, the ones that you've done and the ones that you've seen, what's the time frame that you've seen a really successful Discover Rotary session happen? What's the time frame have you seen?
Thanks, Audley, for the question. So I'm going to answer that in a couple of parts.
Okay.
Depending on the size of your club, I would recommend to run these at least quarterly. Some of the larger clubs run them monthly. Wow. And in terms of the duration of the event, about 20 minutes of presentation time is a sweet spot, and about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A works well. Mm-hmm. The mind can only absorb as much as the backside can endure, so you want to keep it as quick as possible. And again, for those lunchtime clubs, people are getting hungry, you want to move them along. And so that's typically the time frame that we look at, is somewhere about 20 to 25 minutes in presentation and 15 to 20 minutes in Q&A.
You touched something else that's in my notes as well, based on the questions we're getting. Depending on the size of your club, you mentioned a club may wish to do this quarterly or maybe monthly. Again, based on your experience, and Sandy, I'm going to come to you the same question after. How often, depending on the size of the club, would you consider doing this quarterly? Say a club with 100 members and over, you may need to do it quarterly, a club size of 50 or under. What have you seen? What are your thoughts on that?
So typically these Rotary Discover Rotary sessions have about 10 people max in terms of the number of prospects that you'll have sitting in there. So if you figure it on your club size that you're going to run through about 15% of your membership, and you're going to have 10 people thereabouts come into a Discover Rotary session, that will dictate how often you should run them. So for example, if you've got a 300 member club, you want to run at least one of those per month. 10 prospects in the room, you're going to close at least 50% of them, 5 of them. 5 times 12 months is 60 members. Okay, so that's not quite enough to overcome the 15% attrition rate that you're running. But if you have a 30-member club and you put about 5 people in the room and you end up closing 3 of them, You multiply that out over a 10-month period of time, you've got 30 new members coming in. So it really comes down to working the numbers, figuring out exactly how many new members that you want, how many new members you can get into one of these sessions. And as Sandy said earlier, you know, if you've only got one, you still run it. You know, you need to make sure that you have that one-on-one opportunity, because these Discover Rotary sessions are critically important to setting the expectations of our future members. So bring them on in, run the sessions as often as you need to, no less than quarterly, recommend for the larger clubs at least monthly.
Excellent. Sandy, this one is for you. Based on your club size, how often do you do it? How often do you run a Discover Rotary?
Our club is right at 50 members. And so we do a Discover Rotary about every other month. So that means about 6 times a year. But if we have a Discover Rotary scheduled for, let's say, November, and it's October, and all of a sudden we've got club members who've got 3 prospective members, guess what? We're going to plan an on-the-spot Discover Rotary and go ahead and get those people in the pipeline and get them in the club. So, you know, it's all about flexibility. It's all about creativity.
And Chris, I'm bringing this one back over to you. So we're suggesting the prospects come to this Rotary Discover. So we know we have 2 sessions before. How do we find these prospects? So for members in your club it may be harder for them to go and invite someone to a club meeting. So Chris, what are your thoughts on how do we get these prospects in? We did 2 sessions before, but is this an easier way for members to invite someone to this information hour instead of having the person feel a little pressure to invite a prospective member to an actual meeting? Do you find that it's easier for members to say, come to an info session than to a meeting? What have you seen?
So I've seen it a couple of different ways, oddly. You know, if you set these things up as a routine opportunity, in other words, they're always going to be run on the 2nd Tuesday of each month, hypothetically, then your members know very easily when to invite somebody to come. And they don't have to go and try and track somebody down and say, when is our next Discover Rotary session going to happen? So put it into a routine is key number 1. In terms of ease of asking, you know, it's about the same to ask somebody to come to an information session as it is to come to an actual Rotary Club meeting. It's about inviting somebody to come learn more about Rotary. And you're really not inviting them to a meeting. You know, in the case of, you know, lunchtime clubs, as an example, you're inviting them to lunch. We just happen to have a little pre-session right before lunch that we want to invite you to go through. So I think it's all in the way that you ask the question. We all have way too many meetings in our life. Nobody needs to come to another meeting. So it's all about phrasing it in a way that gets the person excited to come learn more about how they're going to serve in their community.
All right, I have 2 quick questions based on the time we have left. So this question is for you, Sandy. How do you follow up? We have these prospects in, they've come to Discover Rotary. How does your club follow up with these prospective members at this session for them to come to a meeting or a social or service project after? What's the follow-up structure like on the back end?
Follow-up is very, very important. You don't want to have somebody come to Discover Rotary and then you never communicate with them again. So we follow up within a couple of days, and that can be a personal phone call. It can be from the prospective member sponsor. It can be the club president. It could be the membership chair. But a follow-up call that says, we were delighted to have you. We hope you enjoyed it. Do you have any questions? And then within a couple of weeks, maybe a follow-up email or a text message. But you want to continue this follow-up process because eventually you want to hear from them that either, yes, Discover Rotary is right for me and they join, or maybe not now, but you haven't lost them. They're still a prospect. You know, maybe they're just dealing with something in their life and maybe next year is better for them. But I can't emphasize follow up, follow up, follow up.
Excellent. And again, we won't have time for one last question. This last question is for you, Chris. We got a question in the Q&A as well. This is an info session for prospective members. How is this different from a member orientation once we have a brand new member coming in? What's the difference? Is the information the same? What's the difference with the target audience? What's your final thoughts on that?
Yeah, so if your club is actually running Discover Rotary sessions as a routine item, you'll actually not run the same content in an onboarding situation. And again, Discover Rotary is about setting expectations, and it also weeds people in, and it also weeds people out. So it's important to, I think it's important to run Discover Rotary so that you can, make it easier in terms of setting those expectations and weeding people in and out of the opportunity. The orientation sessions should really be more about, okay, so this is how you pay dues. This is how you get online with Rotary International. This is how you get online to your membership management organization. Some of the more operational things that you need to know about Rotary. So Discover Rotary, I know a lot of folks have been running elements of Discover Rotary in the orientation once the person's already made their decision to join. And in some cases, people learn more about Rotary in the onboarding process, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that, and oh, this isn't what I signed up for. So, getting that out in front of them in a Discover Rotary session is really important, I think.
And I know it was the final question, but we're getting a lot of questions coming in the Q&A. This final one, Sandy, I'll throw that one to you. For e-clubs, how does that work? It's not going to be in person. And I think this has been done via Zoom when we're doing COVID the past 2 years. Did you do online Discover Rotary sessions, and how did that work? Was it successful?
We've done online Discover Rotary along. We discovered during the pandemic that our Rotary Club could still grow. The pandemic did not prevent us from growing. And part of the reason for that was we kept up with Discover Rotary. Sometimes we did it one-on-one, sometimes we did it in a group Zoom, but we never stopped. We kept on going, and good gracious, I think we grew that year by a net 4. And so, what? People want to be in Rotary. People really want to join Rotary. And really, we learned that it didn't matter that we were in a Zoom virtual format. People still want to be part of Rotary.
Excellent. And with that, that's the last question for us. Again, we've run out of time. So thank you very much, Chris. And thank you very much, Sandy, for sharing your expertise, sharing your thoughts and comments with us today, and sharing this particular initiative and how we can inform prospective Rotarians and give them a little taste before coming to a club meeting or a project. So thank you again very much. My task here is now to just hand this over to Jeremy. So Jeremy's just going to come in right now and close us up and wrap up this session for us. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Audley. What a wonderful session, and thanks to yourself, but in particular to Sandy and Chris for explaining a program which makes a real difference in our ability to transform prospects into members, and how well you did explaining exactly what the process is. And it's so important, as Chris, you said, this is a process, this is a recipe. This is something, if we do it step by step, we will make a difference in our clubs, we'll make a difference to the way our members see us, and we will be able to grow Rotary, grow more and do more in our communities, enjoy Rotary more. So I think there were some tremendous questions as well. It's always great to listen to each of you, what your thoughts are. We will be sending a frequently asked question reply out to everybody, so that if we missed some of your questions there, we'll try and cover them later. One in particular, I'd like to reassure you that if you missed the first session and you do go back and actually watch the video of it, that will count towards the Membership Action Plan Awards. So hopefully we're giving you the map towards membership growth in your clubs, to a better Rotary that we can all enjoy more. Have a wonderful week, have a wonderful month, and we're looking forward to the next one. And of course, let us talk about these events that are happening, the Projects of Impact webinar that are going to be happening on Tuesday, the 20th of September, with RI President Barry Racine, past RI President, I should say, and the Zone 34 Foundation team. Come to that, it'll be a great webinar. And I think we have another one this September 26th. Zone 34's public image team, great events. Register for that at www.elevaterotary.org. And of course, our next MAP session, meaningful onboarding. So you can talk about then and see what happens then when we actually get to the point of onboarding a member orientation, making sure that their Rotary experience becomes the best one possible as they join our amazing organization. So register now. Let's see you there. Tell your friends, tell your district, tell your other clubs that this is the place to be, and we will have a better Rotary because of it. Thank you all so much for everything you do in your communities. Rotary International, the Board of Rotary, President Jen, and I appreciate it. Take care and look after yourselves. Bye now.